Please be seated. Good evening and welcome to St. Michael South. Oh, y'all ain't get that one. Let me start over. Let me start over a little bit. Good evening and welcome to St. Michael South, my BLP family. All right, y'all sound like y'all warming up. Just before we get started with the proceedings, I would like to invite Comrade Ricky McConney to offer us a word of prayer as we open this afternoon's branch meeting.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. Please stand, bow your heads, close your eyes. O Heavenly Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. We gather here today with grateful hearts, seeking your guidance and your wisdom. We thank you for the opportunity to serve our community and our nation through this great party. Bless our political leader, the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, and the MPs. With clarity of mind and strength of purpose, may they be inspired by ideas of justice, equality, and compassion as they work to create policies that benefit our people. Grant them the wisdom to make decisions that are just and fair. Help them to focus on the greater good, always mindful of the great responsibility they carry. We ask your blessings on this evening's proceedings, our speakers, and those gathered here together today. We ask traveling mercies for those on their way. Guide our decisions today and throughout our endeavors. May our actions reflect your love and grace. And may we strive to build a community and by extension a nation that upholds the dignity and rights of every individual. And may each and every one of us be more like you, Jesus, and be less like us. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. So once again, I want to say good evening to the entire BLP family, residents of St. Michael South. I want to take this opportunity to welcome Comrade Gregory Nichols, Comrade Chantal Monroe Knight, as well as Comrade Chad Blackman to St. Michael South. It's always great to have guests and welcome visitors in St. Michael South. This afternoon, we are focused on the now and the future. We want to acknowledge that we have come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. And the Barbados Labour Party remains the best party to guide Barbados forward. There is no conversation, there is no competition, there is no doubt that this party continues to be the best for Barbados. And you simply have to look around as we welcome persons for this year's ICC T20 Championship to understand that this government has a vision, that this party understands what it means to be on the world stage. And we continue to govern Barbados with the best interests of all in mind. And so before I invite Khalil to welcome our first speaker, there are just a couple of reminders. The first is that we're asking that you not move the chairs or the tables this afternoon as they've been set for exams. And as always, we are grateful to the Graydon Seeley Secondary School for allowing us to be here. The other reminder that I have for you is that this afternoon you are among family. So I invite you to talk your talk because it is going to be a meeting that really focuses on what comes next and who we are as we move ahead. So I want to thank you for being here and welcome you once again on behalf of St. Michael South because we love to see familiar faces in St. Michael South.
Good afternoon, St. Michael South. Did you all forget to eat Sunday lunch today? Good afternoon, St. Michael South. That is a little better. I'll try you again at the end and see. Comrades, it gives me great pleasure to join you this afternoon at your branch meeting. St. Michael South is a very special part of the Barbados Labour Party family. And 6 years ago at this school, I believe this school was the counting station. 6 years ago at this school was one of this party's finest moments when your warrior, when your champion became only the second person in Barbadian history to unseat a sitting prime minister. And he did so, and you reposed your confidence in him because you understood that Kirk Humphrey represented in the fullness of himself the Barbados Labour Party ethos and the Barbados Labour Party vision for Barbados and the approach of the Barbados Labour Party to the governing affairs of this country. And it is special, therefore, that tonight's meeting, this evening's branch meeting, is themed around a conversation with young leaders on the future of Barbados. Because while others are concerned about who will hold what office, the Barbados Labour Party is concerned about your future and the future of the people of this country. And it is people like those on the stage this evening, like those who will come, it is bright young people like my co-chair, the president of the League of Young Socialists, Roshana Trim, that demonstrates that the Barbados Labour Party understands the value of young people and understands the value of creating the conditions that are necessary for the development of young people in Barbados. There are a few people perhaps that understand better than I do how the other side feel about young people, having been on the receiving end of some of that. And there could be, and that is why I always laugh when people talk about both parties are the same. There could not be more difference between the two parties, and a perfect example of that is this party's approach to young people in this country. And so that informs this party in government in terms of the extraordinary transformative work that is being done. And you will hear that today because it is a common thread between each of the speakers who, in their own way, are undertaking various parts of the transformational agenda and the transformational mission of this party in government, starting with your Member of Parliament, who is literally, and you will hear from him, but who is literally unmaking a colonial child protection system and creating a condition that we can all be proud of, because if a country does not protect its young people, then it is not doing anything at all. And so you will hear that theme of transformation throughout the evening. And the first speaker who will address you today is, like your Member of Parliament, a very fierce advocate. A man who has committed his life to being the voice for the voiceless, as this party has, and who has committed himself to standing up for those people who are not always able to stand up for themselves. He has distinguished himself in an extraordinary legal career that has won him great success for himself and for his clients. And he is also a man that is deeply, deeply rooted in the ethos of public service. He has been called before to serve in the Senate, and he has accepted the call to serve again. He serves as the deputy chairman of the Constitutional Reform Commission and is literally driving forward the process of delivering to Barbados a constitution of which the people of this country can be proud. And therefore, it gives me the greatest pleasure to invite you to join me in welcoming to the podium Senator Gregory Nichols.
Good evening, comrades. I had hoped to be speaking to you this evening with a little more vigor, but it seems either the African dust or the excitement from World Cup cricket is beginning to take its toll. So You will forgive me if I am not as enthusiastic in coming back to St. Michael's South to speak on behalf and for my very good school buddy, Kurt Humphrey, a man who has inspired a lot of us from the days at the St. Michael's School and at the University of the West Indies, where we studied together in the early 1990s. I'm not dating Kurt. But this evening we were called to talk about the future of Barbados. And it is for me a little difficult to pin down exactly where I want to spend the short time that has been allotted to me, because driving here, we were hearing the news that the European parliamentary elections seems to be ushering doomsday for a lot of the governments in Europe. Macron has called a snap election in France. We know Modi has now been re-elected in India with a reduced majority. The same thing with the ANC in South Africa. This is a year of tremendous change in the world around us, and we have never, in this Barbados Labour Party, been taking our eyes off of the circumstances that pertain for what small countries like us have to face on a daily basis. So, we are hosting the world in the World Cup, ICC Cricket World Cup. And I was just looking at some figures which show that the final, the viewership for this final, which will be held on the 29th of June, is going to exceed the viewership for the American Super Bowl. Obviously, there are millions of people hundreds of millions of people who live in India and Southeast Asia, and the market is a very large television market. But yesterday, as I was getting ready to go to a function, one of the commentators, English cricketer Michael Atherton, was describing Barbados in this way, and he said, "This is the place that most Englishmen put on their bucket list." And he was talking about Kensington Oval. This is the place where most Englishmen would want to be to watch a cricket match at the iconic Kensington Oval. And you know, I am of the view that it is only when you listen to the naysayers and our opponents that you get there's any opposition to the fact that we are hosting the world for not our third, as people say, but our fourth ICC final. We did one in 2007, 50 over World Cup, men and women in 2010, and we will host the men's finals later this year. This is what the Barbados Labour Party meant when we put in our manifesto in 2018, building out the economy of Barbados and creating a cricket industry for young people. If you look at Canada, leading run scorer, young Barbadian, not 25 years old. United States of America have won 2 games in the World Cup. Leading run scorer, another Barbadian. The fast bowlers for the England team, young Barbadians who have already excelled on the international stage. And I don't have to tell you that this community has given birth to the greatest cricketer that the world has ever seen. That is our legacy. What is the connection between building out a cricket industry and creating opportunities for young people? I can tell you that in my capacity as Secretary of the Barbados Cricket Association, we are working with government to ensure we get more young people into wholesome activities. Cricket is big in Barbados, but the truth is it's not big enough. If we're going to compete on the international stage, and I'm not talking about only Barbados winning cricket games against Trinidad and Guyana and the Leeward Islands. I am talking about producing a man and woman who can make a living off of this great game that has done so much for us. How many of you know that at the last Commonwealth Games, Barbados was the only country in women's cricket that represented the region? We beat Pakistan and we beat a number of the other teams. But what does it take to create an Olympic athlete in any sporting discipline? What does it take to create a Commonwealth Games athlete in the sport of cricket? So a lot of the rudimentary elements of our cricket infrastructure have to change. And this is what the government is talking about, building out the capacity, using Cricket World Cup as the catalyst to reinvigorate the passion in people to play a game that we do so very well in. I predict that we're going to have to add another national hero to the list in another 5 to 10 years. Because when Haley Matthews, her journey is completed, there will be no doubt, number one ranked all-rounder in women's cricket, come from both here in Barbados. And I remember when she went to Harrison College, she played with the boys because there was no formal women's program. So she played under 13 and under 15, under 17, and under 19 with the boys. We have to do better than that for our young women. We have to. When the rain falls, we can't practice cricket. So that is why the government is saying we can take Kensington over, we can build out the indoor facility, and we can improve the sporting facilities across the country so young people in this place that has done so well can produce more cricketers. I have a vision that fits snugly into the Barbados Labour Party's manifesto pledge that if we get serious about cricket, cricket is now an Olympic sport. It will be played at the Olympics, I believe, in 2028 in San Francisco. So by 2032, 2036, this country should be looking to have a men's and women's cricket team at the Olympics. What will it take to get us there? What will it take to get us there? We have to improve our physical facilities. We have to improve the players' knowledge of the sport and the intricacies of the sport. We have to improve their understanding and awareness of sports science and data and how the analytics can turn the outcomes of sporting events. We have to improve strength and conditioning. Your nephew, son, grandson, whoever, or granddaughter should be at school knowing how fast they need to run at a certain distance doing shuttles. What is the Olympic standard in terms of sprints if I am a cricketer? What is my strength, resilience, how high I can jump? These are things that Olympic athletes know by rote. We need now to step up to the plate to give Barbadians the opportunity to play cricket all over the world. I envision that with the Major League Cricket expanding in the United States of America. Major League Cricket, that the majority of people playing outside of the large Indian diaspora, we have a big claim on that. We need to start talking to the Americans, the Canadians in the Global Cricket League, and other cricket-playing countries, even in South America. Argentina has reached out to Barbados to produce coaches. And we can't produce the coaches that Argentina have asked for. So that when the government says there is a future for young Barbadian men and women to play this great game that has done so much, we as a government have to put our money where our mouth is. We have to put the resources and the oomph behind our young people. And we can do it. So that our decision to host this World Cup has to be juxtaposed against the backdrop of when the Dems were in power. They refused to host the Women's T20 World Cup in 2016. Because that generation of Barbadian talent, Shakira Selman, Deandra Dottin, all of those young women have done extraordinarily well for Barbados and the West Indies. They're moving on. The young ones are coming through. But we do it because we are really good at it. But the truth is, where do they practice? Women cross the highway, go down to Texaco, the old ground at Texaco. If the rain falls, practice done. But we can beat Pakistan in a Commonwealth women's game. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a passion for cricket only because we have done so well in it. And I can't think of any expression of what it really means to be Barbadian than what cricket means. I want to move on to something else now. We heard Khalil speak about constitutional reform. And one of the good things about this and your government is that this Barbados Labour Party seriously looks at the institutional frameworks in which we operate. And the Prime Minister has a philosophy of deconstruct and reconstruct. I don't think that we give Kurt enough credit for the work he's done in the disabled community, the work he's done with the elderly, the work he's done with the youth. The Child Protection Act is a fantastic testament of the deconstruction of a colonial Barbados and a reconstruction of a modern framework to judge young children on notions that comport with human dignity and how we accept and treat people in the 21st century. We're doing the same thing with the Constitutional Reform Commission. We're tightening it up. We're not rushing the process. Yes, we have asked for an extension. We have a draft report that one half of the commission is looking through, and we also have a draft bill which we are ironing out the kinks. But the task of building a modern constitution for the future is something that we engage in with purpose and resolve to ensure that things like discrimination on the basis of social class, which is part of the Barbadian social fabric, is something that we recognize we had to change. The first thing Bajans ask you, where you went to school, who your father is. This is not a society that we feel that where your social origins start should have a determinative say in where you should be. We have engaged experts from all over, and we've received submissions, and we're talking about making the environment a living person that has rights in of itself, just like me and you. Because we live in a country that has to battle with climate resilience and climate change, and our vulnerability is so high. Therefore, we have to create the awareness that our environment is the duty of each and every one of us to protect. Taking these notions and remodeling them and fitting them within the construct of our modern constitution takes time, it takes dialogue. This is what your government is doing. On the other hand, the Democratic Labour Party continues to engage in what I call big talk. Big talk, and it's coming. Over the next 2 years, the Democratic Labour Party will make the Black Lives Matter movement look like child's play, because they will promise everybody in Barbados social and economic liberation, which is the mantra of the Democratic Labour Party, to come to trick people about the black man and the small black man. You hear it in their mouthings as they speak. They're talking about deconstructing the Constitution and a post-conquest Constitution. A lot of big talk, and they're going to try to trick people about what a post-conquest Constitution should mean in Barbados. And that has come out as a result of the situation with rats, no doubt, and the land in St. George. This government listens to the people of the country. We lead, but we listen. I'm proud of the work that we have done on the Child Justice Bill, the Child Protection Bill, and even on the Cybercrime Bill. Engaging Barbadians to bring out the best legislation for our times. Leaving Barbadians in a state where they can feel comfort that the government is doing right by them. All at the same time, the DLP is telling you that we're trying to take people's children away from them and all kind of wedge issues, trying to frighten people and say that we're wicked. We don't have any moral core. All of that they're going to try to paint us. But you see us every day. You know of our track records and all the work that we have been doing before we have come to politics, before we have come to office. You've seen us in office. You've seen us battle through COVID and turn around the Barbadian economy. They will come with big talk. And comrades of this great party, I want you to recommit yourself to defending this party everywhere you go. Because one thing I know, talk is cheap. And all they're coming is with sweet talk, trying to trick you that they are going to do something to change. Look at their track record. The Sandiford administration, Thompson and Stewart administration. Every time they just say, all right, let me give them a chance. What have they done? So, for me, we safe. Look at this stage. You imagine Roshana Trim and Khalil Koftawala ain't get to bat yet. You heard Chad Blackman or Chantal Monroe speak. And with authority. And people listening. You've heard my friend, who was much maligned, speak. Lisa Cummings, the leader of government business in the Senate. A steady and firm and disciplined hand. And I see Minister Marcia Cattle at one of Kurt's meetings, joint meetings with Marcia in 2018, I was chairing this meeting. And I said to myself, this is the next best thing to Liz Thompson. And that was in 2018. I did an injustice to both Liz and Marcia because Marcia is Marcia Cattle. This is what we have to offer you. We will make mistakes. Yes, we will get some things wrong. We are not going to do things that you're always going to agree with. But I tell you this. This is the future of Barbados. You look at this table here and you look at our colleagues here. This is the future of Barbados. Excellence in their own individual fields, excellence in office, excellence in government. And you know we're driven by a hard taskmaster. Kurt would tell you I get licks. Was it Monday? No, Tuesday. Hard taskmaster. You can't slacken off. Every attention to detail, because what is at stake, ladies and gentlemen? We cannot afford to get it wrong. Small countries do not have the margins to get policy choices wrong. We all on board. And I am happy to be part of the future of this Labour Party. And in my own small way, I hope that we can continue to do good by the people of Barbados. I want to acknowledge Minister of Home Affairs, Wilfred Abrams, who I can see in the gaze of my eyes outside. And I think I've acknowledged everybody from the BLP family. You know what? One thing, I see Ms. Kennedy, I see Saint Tomia, I see people that vote for me in 2013, not looking at me right now, you know, this is the fabric of the Barbados Labour Party. We in a hive. Let us thrive. Good evening. God bless.
Barbados Labour Party got him bright sparks. Exactly, Symptomia. And you know, I noticed that when Comrade Nichols was calling everybody that's the future, and that speaks well, he did not call himself, and I understand. So let me say that when we think about the future of the Labour Party, we understand that Comrade Gregory Nichols is undoubtedly wrapped in the fabric of who we are. And we continue to nurture and encourage and empower young people to not only enter politics, not only to be engaged with the Barbados Labour Party, but to do so well with integrity and humility and grace. And it continues to be what defines us. And a couple of things that I gathered. You know, a lot of times we believe that democracy and governance is somehow linked to perfection. It is not at all linked to perfection. And Comrade Nichols said that we will get some things wrong. The government cannot be perfect. But what we do know and what we have seen is that we have a government that is willing to course correct. And that is even more important than simply striving for perfection. Because sometimes we need to acknowledge that we haven't got it all right, and we need to course correct. And because talk is cheap, there are a lot of persons who will not course correct, and they will continue to go down the wrong road. But when we talk, we mean it. And what we say, we will deliver. And so when we said that we plan to make Barbados in 2018 the best place to work, live, raise a family, and all the other things to make sure that Barbadians thrive, we have done that. And in 2022, when we said to young people that we are battling several crises, but we want to make sure that we not only focus on the now, that we focus on the future, we have done that. And so when we spoke and we said that we were going to have young people on all the boards in Barbados, we have done that. And when we said we were going to protect the most vulnerable, the Child Protection Bill, Child Justice Act, we have done that. And so it baffles me to hear persons complaining about the Child Protection Bill, because you need to ask yourself, why would any political party, why would any advocate of the people be so angry about a bill that protects the most vulnerable? We have to ask ourselves, when we talk about transformation in education, and we said that we would not kick the can down the road. Why are you not on board in transforming education when we know that our education must transform for the future? When we know that we have to protect our children from other people, young people, older persons, from what may be occurring on the web, on the internet, and all those different things on social media, why are we so affronted by that? And what it says to me, and I'll say what it says to me, is that they are focused on the now. They're focused on the power of the now, and not on what is next. And so when you ask yourself which political party, which government has shown that they're interested in the future, when you ask yourself who is interested in ensuring that the seeds that we sow today will allow for us to reap bounties for our children, our grandchildren, and all the future generations to come, it is none other than the Barbados Labour Party. And so if you want to see what investments in the future look like, as the president of the League of Young Socialists, I have to say that you have to look in the league. And if you want an example of what an investment in young people in this party looks like, our next speaker is undoubtedly a wonderful example. He is a former president of the League of Young Socialists. He has represented Barbados with honor and dignity at the highest office, including as an ambassador, as well as a representative in the International Labor Organization. My apologies. But the one thing that strikes me about Chad Blackman is the humility that he continues to possess. And I knew Chad before he became an ambassador. And I knew Chad before he served in the ILO. And the one thing that he has always been is willing to assist, and he has always been willing to support. And I believe that that is the foundation of why young people thrive in the Labour Party, because there is no shortage of persons who are willing to support and who are willing to encourage. And so I want to invite Comrade Chad Blackman to speak to you this afternoon, because I believe that with his experience and his knowledge and what he offers, given all the things that he has done in the last term and as minister in the Ministry of Economic Affairs, that he is able to share with you exactly where we are and the vision for where we want to go next. So I invite you to put your hands together. And I want to put your hands together and welcome Chad Blackman.
A little higher, a little higher. Yeah, no problem. All right, good, thank you. Good evening, comrades. Good evening, comrades. It is so good to be here amongst you this evening. So once again, good evening to those of you who are here, those of you also who are following online. Let me also, before I get into my intervention this afternoon, to acknowledge the presence of the Member of Parliament for St. Lucie, the Honorable Peter Phillips. And let me say, Kirk, you bring out the family this evening, boy. You bring out the family this evening. But let me start on that basis. We're here discussing as a family, and I want to commend Kirk and your executive and your team for what I believe is a very timely title, The Future of Barbados. Very, very, very timely. And when you look at where we are, and as Roshana was speaking just now, I had to cast my mind back some 15, 20 years ago. Gregory, you were there. At the time, there was Voices of the Future. I think, Kurt, you were there too. And life has a way of coming full circle. But when you ask yourself about the future of Barbados, you're talking about how can we ensure that this country becomes even more developed, even more prosperous, all inclusive for our people. And I want to take this opportunity, therefore, to signal my public commendation for not just MP, but Minister Kirk Humphrey for what he's doing. You cannot have any solid foundation, any clear future, without the foundation of our young people, and in particular, our children. And what this young man has done through his ministry, not just in the last few weeks, but leading his team, the consultations, working with the United Nations relative to the convention, and now bringing it into our law. Minister Humphrey, our generation owes you a debt. Owe you a debt. And why is it so important? We see many times the manifestations of social ills in our country. Crime. Every country has its bouts of crime. But oftentimes at the core, it is a signal of a deeper social issue. And oftentimes it comes as a result of children being sponges of their environment, being sponges of abuse, being sponges of being told you are not good enough, being sponges of being made to feel that despite your talent and your potential, you ain't nobody. And whilst the legislation cannot correct everything, It is now so tight that it really now makes it difficult for children in our country to be abused. And if you're abusing children, look out, because the legislation is there, and that is why it is so important. But I'm not surprised, because why? Every time there are major changes in this country to benefit the most vulnerable, it is the Barbados Labour Party that is at the forefront. And those of you here in St. Michael South ought to feel a sense of pride that your MP is not just batting on your behalf at the constituency level, but at the national and international levels, he's leading the charge to ensure that our future is secure. And when you look at the future, I want to touch very briefly, because I know we have a long list of speakers, and I know you also want to hear your MP. The future of Barbados is one where I believe we have tremendous potential to do even greater things. When you look at our history, we've come from sugar, we've come tourism, still there and going, of course, international business. But the world in which we live in, and I can tell you where I've not too long come from on the global level, and you can see it in day-to-day life. The global arena is changing, and changing rapidly. And therefore, things that we've relied upon over the last 4 or 5 decades, we cannot continue to believe that this will work over the next 20, 30, 40 years. And this generation of the Barbados Labour Party, and this generation of Barbadians collectively, the 300,000 of us, have a duty to ensure that we lay a foundation that will ensure further growth and prosperity for our people. Going back invariably to the essence of who we are as a party, creating a better life for our people. And one opportunity, in my view, is when you look at the ingredients that we have, a country that invests heavily in educational development. The future of Barbados is one where I believe we have to have a knowledge-based economy. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that given our high level of certification, whether it be through CXCs, A-levels, CAPE, associate degrees, certifications coming out of SJPI, University of the West Indies, how do we take all of that certification, that surplus certification, if you ask me, and create now a basis of our people seeing not just that I want to have a degree or master's or PhD just to have a higher wage, but you're now using that as a base to create a system to provide solutions for global problems. And there are tons of global problems, and they manifest in different ways, and they come all the time. So whether it be climate, whether it be issues relative to health, whether it be infrastructure, whether it be finance, whether it be debt, Barbados must now become the country that can now look across the global horizon and say, based on where things are, we are going to create things to sell to the world. And you earn revenue on the basis of your ideas. Because why? No one can take this away. So we're not rich in oil, we're not rich in bauxite, we have no large land mass, notwithstanding that we have a large set of ocean which we must explore. And Kurt, you led that front when we first came to office in 2018 under the Blue Economy. We must now move forward to build a strong platform for resilience and development for our people. And why is it so important? And why do I know we can do it? In our DNA, not only as a party, but as a country, Barbados is that country that continues to lead the world as a global thinker and a thought leader. And I also want to use this occasion, again, to commend our leader and Prime Minister, the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, for the work that she's doing, not just in Barbados, but around the world. She's not just doing it for our country or our region, but she's doing it also for the global south. And we ought to feel a sense of pride that once again we have a leader who has her pulse on what is happening in the world. But why is that important? I want to start with UNCTAD 15 and come right now to the Global Supply Chain Forum. One of the gifts that Prime Minister Motley has, and we have to call it for what it is, she's an intrinsically very good reformer. She can spot a problem, and she can provide the solution. Many people can't get it through. Some people can maybe spot a problem, but they can't tell you how to get it fixed. But she can spot the problem and tell you how to get it fixed. And when the world was going through deep inequalities coming out of COVID, she was able to convince the United Nations membership, that time I was in Geneva, for Barbados to be the first small state to host UNCTAD's quadrennial. What does that mean in basic terms? It meant that all of the world's countries were being led by Barbados to treat the issues of trade and to treat the issues of development, because she realized the world cannot continue as it is. That therefore meant that she became the president of the institution and the world leader who drove the agenda for development, not just for Barbados, not just for CARICOM, but for all member states around the world, including developed nations, Prime Minister Motley. But she didn't just stay there. She realized that not only Barbados is suffering with issues of cost of living. The truth is, most of our cost of living is imported. The cost, it's imported. And therefore, if you want to treat to the issues of ensuring that our goods can come down in terms of price, not just, as I said, in Barbados, but around the world, there's a systemic issue in our supply chains. And therefore, she went after it, and hence why you saw 2-3 weeks ago, Barbados, again, the first small nation, to hold the world's Global Supply Chain Forum. Why am I making those two examples? To simply say to you that part of the future of Barbados is that forever we must be that small, powerful nation that is the world's voice on all of the world's problems. We may not get it right in every area, but we must be that thought leader and place geographically and also intellectually that provides the world solutions on where things need to go. When you look at Grantley Adams and come right up to Prime Minister Motley, we have it in our blood and in our DNA to do. And therefore, I was very, very pleased when Gregory talked about the future of the party. The future of the party isn't only on this head table, you know. And now in our current parliamentary group, there are tons of you here and persons who are also interested in being in the party who can lead in different areas of our development. And we want to use this then as a call to you to come and join the Labour Party family, bring your skills so that we can develop our country even more. We have an excellent minister leading the charge on innovation and technology, Minister Cadell. Excellent work you're doing. And why is it important? Because if Barbados' economy is to grow, we can't just do it in the way that we've been doing it before. Technology is playing a major, major role. Issues of data protection. How do you ensure that people's identity is protected? Because why? There's now an economic value to that. You have the Minister of Energy here, Minister Cummins, doing a fantastic charge in helping the country to transition from a fossil fuel-based manufacturing capacity now to clean energy, hence to reduce our import bill, making it more competitive for us to do business on many fronts, helping you to reduce your cost of living. But I can go further, but the point is, the Labour Party, whenever you look at these significant shifts of development in this country, it is the Labour Party that is always there to do it. But on the other hand, you have a party, and I wish somehow I could have talked to Al Barra, but I can't. Because I'm sure he would say, Chad, I don't know what them people down there doing in my name. But that is true too, Saiti. But he would say, I don't know what those people in George Street are doing in my name. But their actions bear no resemblance to the ethos of the party in which I started. I believe strongly those are the words that he would use. And I am not perfect, but growing up in a Christian home, one of the things I also learned as a young Christian young man, you don't play with God. Don't play with God. God in the joke thing, God in your mate down your road, you tell you, we're going to have a drink. God is the sovereign. And I take an affront when a man can leave this great institution, go across to that other institution, and do so and say to the country, he is doing God's work. How? When? Where? One of the things, and allow me to not call her Minister Cummins, Sister Cummins, and Sister Monroe Knight, Sister Worrell. One of the things that the Bible tells you, what? God is not the author of what? God is not the author of what? Of confusion. So if he is trying to tell the country that him moving into the Democratic Labour Party is God's work, he talking about a different God. He ain't talking about the one that we talking about. From the time he has come there, confusion after confusion after confusion. And those in the Senate can tell you as recent as last week or week before, one of his own members in the Senate, they're now starting to distance themselves in their own utterances. Go online on CBC and check for yourselves. Don't take my word for it. Because why? They're now starting to realize that he is not the man he purports to be relative to his leadership and his vision. Don't play with God. A word to the wise is enough. So we must be steadfast. And as you've heard, things are not perfect. There's no perfect country. There's no perfect government. There's no perfect party. There's no perfect household. But what you have is a commitment that if you make mistakes, which will come from time to time, that you correct them, stay the course, move forward. And that is what we're doing in this party. So I am very, very, very pleased. Again, Kurt, salute to you for what you've brought here this evening. And I'm confident that in years to come, just like how we can remember voices of the future, in this iteration, perhaps in 10 years, in 15 years, we will now see a new cadre of leaders coming through this party, not just for the sake of leadership, but to ensure, one, that at the constituency level, our people get the best representation. Two, at the national level, Barbados continues to be the most prosperous small island state in the world. And three, at the global level, we continue to provide that global leadership on where we need to go. So I want to say thanks to all of you. Have a fantastic week, and God bless the Barbados Labour Party.
Yeah. Thank you, Comrade Blackman, who has demonstrated to you now why the people not only of Barbados, because as Roshana said, he was appointed as an ambassador for Barbados, but why the people of the world at the international level repose their confidence in him for his sharp and his keen intellect. You know, Kirk, I hope you will forgive me because I know this is a branch meeting and not a political meeting, but there is an awful aroma of a stench that occasionally wafts through the air whenever certain persons allow their voice box to be used in the service of evil. And what the country has now to contend with are persons who misrepresent themselves as a parliamentary representative. A parliamentary representative, as I know you know, because your parliamentary representative actually represents your interests, is supposed to be there for you, is supposed to be someone who you see and who you can talk to and who will do his best to solve your problems. A parliamentary representative is not someone who has not been seen or heard from in his own constituency since he was elected. And what the people of Barbados must be aware of is that all across the world, you heard Gregory talk about it. In Europe today, you have the rise of the far right. In the United States, if an election was held today, a man might very well be elected president who is a convicted felon. And what that man, though his enduring contribution in the US is what I call the deconstruction of truth. So he can say that, his crowd size was large, and you have the picture, you have the picture that the crowd was small, but people will still go along with what he says. And you find that here, regrettably, at the moment. because you have people, and if you listen, and I know it can be very painful to the ears sometimes to listen to them, but if you listen to what they have now begun to say, they want to convince you that the lost decade was not lost. But you and I lived through it. You and I know what it was to live in a country where literally fecal matter was the thing on the road. And that was a perfect representation of the government, really and truly, at the time. That is what the lost decade was about. Marsha Cadell can tell you, and Kurt Comfrey and the others can tell you, that when they came to office in 2018, there was nothing in the foreign reserves. And you have people who want now to convince you that this party is the party that is not being straightforward with the stewardship of money. Well, I hear there's a lot of talk about the Public Accounts Committee. But the last parliament ended early. And if I am not mistaken, there are outstanding investigations that a new Public Accounts Committee ought to undertake to be able to figure out some of the things that the said same Auditor General, who they now praise, had so much to say in that lost decade period. So I will trust that the man of truth and justice will look for truth everywhere. And your representative has, and it's not a slogan at all, but it is his ethos, and some of you have it on your shirts, people over politics. And what this new incarnation of the Democratic Labour Party has done is to subvert that, and so that you have now an individual who has not a good thing in the world to say about the spending of $5 million in the central point of his constituency. Now, Kurt, if the government were to spend $5 million in one single place for one single thing in your constituency, would you not be the happiest man in the world? But that so vile is the spectacle that you have a person who cannot even bring themselves, calling themselves a parliamentary representative, cannot even bring themselves to acknowledge that their own people will be the chief beneficiaries of a substantial sum of money. But the next speaker, because you haven't come here to hear me tonight, but the next speaker who I will bring to you is not confused about that equation. Is not confused because at her core it is about people. She has dedicated her life to public policy professionally and to development. She answered the call to higher service in 2018 first at the medicinal cannabis licensing. She answered it an even higher call in 2022. She is assisting the Prime Minister in shouldering some of the burden in the Prime Minister's office to free up the Prime Minister. This is a woman who understands that the purpose of politics is to help people and not to advance self-interest. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, all join me in welcoming Senator Chantel Monroe-Knight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, comrades. Khalil, I am not confused. I am not at all confused. And I am happy this evening to be here in St. Michael's South for my maiden branch meeting speech. I want to thank Kirk for his confidence. Kirk was like a parent with a child going off to sit the 11+ exam. So every minute he was there, do well. Then he was, I trust you, but do well. But do well here. But no, but listen, I could not come into his house either and not spend 5 minutes when we talk about the future of Barbados and the transformation agenda of this government and give kudos to the work that Kirk is doing within his ministry Many have talked about what he is doing with child protection, but that is only one small part of what is happening in Barbados in the social services sector. And the work that Kirk is doing is critical and it is deliberate. It is deliberate by design because we have a party, the Barbados Labour Party, that we are part of the family, comrades, that understands that as much as we need to ensure that we have a strong economy, that as much as we need to ensure that there is growth, that all of that will not be meaningful unless we have a strong social services sector, unless we make sure that our social service policy can ensure what our Prime Minister always says, that we see, feel, and hear people. And that is what Kirk is administering. He has not only delivered on child protection, he will deliver on the amalgamation of the welfare services so that people who have to go there will have a sense of dignity. He is delivering on the One Family program, which is not just about giving people money, but creating a whole ecosystem of support for them so that they again can feel ensured that when they come through that program, that they can stand up by themselves and hold the shoulders high and walk with the heads high as a Barbadian, feeling equal. That is what this government is delivering in its social policy. That is what this government is delivering in its transformation agenda. Every other speaker who has come to this platform has said that the government is not perfect, that we are all not going to get it right. It is like a household. You live in a house for a number of years, and you're comfortable and everything looking good. And then one morning you get up and you realize, hold on, we're going to make some serious changes because the house that served us for 13 years, 15 years, can't serve us now. We got to change some things. We got to retrofit some things. And as we do that, it can be a little bit messy. It can be a little bit uncomfortable. We are not going to like the change. So that staying the course in the midst of this transformation agenda that this government is doing means staying the course even when it gets messy. It means staying the course even when we don't agree. It means staying the course to ensure that we will achieve the Barbados, that the Barbados Labour Party has promised the people in this country. That is what staying the course in the midst of this transformation agenda means. One of the areas of transformation that I assist this government with is ensuring that the public sector can improve its performance. What that means simply is that we are wheeling and coming again, people. That the government is intent, plank by plank, ministry by ministry, process by process, on doing the things that are frustrating you and I, on doing the things that make us feel that unless we know somebody, we can't get through, on doing the things that make Barbadians feel a little pinch and an ouch that frustrates you. Those are the things that we are concerned about. And it is for this reason that the government has established the Citizen Services Contact Center. And that is a call center where Barbadians, you, and I and anybody can call in and complain about what the government is delivering. That is accountability at its highest. After we have come through the last decade of silence, when a government was comfortable with not delivering, you have a government that is saying, I want to be so accountable that I am giving you a channel where you can call and tell me what you don't like, what is not working for you, what we need to change. And that Citizen Services Contact Center is open to you Mondays to Saturdays, that you can call and get professionally trained persons who will listen to your concerns. And let me tell you, it is not only that you calling in and listening, but we will be resolving those problems for you. If we can't do it on the spot, we guaranteeing within a specified period of time that we will make sure that we answer those questions, provide those solutions for you. Since we started in mid-January, we have had over 4,000 Barbadians calling into the Citizen Services Contact Center with the confidence that this government is serious about its commitment to addressing the issues, serious about its commitment to addressing the garbage, serious to its commitment about addressing the issues with the Barbados Water Authority. That is why myself and the Prime Minister meets almost on a monthly basis with the Barbados Water Authority to make sure that we can right-size delivery for you. And we ain't cherry picking. When we right-sizing, we ain't going house to house and saying this body house or this body house. We are right-sizing for the people of Barbados, which is the same thing that they don't understand up in Oistins. When we fix all the countertops in Oistins, we didn't go blue, red, yellow, or green. We fixed everyone. When we painted all of the shops in Oistins, we didn't go through, we paint every single one. When we pave Oistins, we pave for everybody. When we fix up the bathrooms, we did it for everybody. We are right-sizing and transforming for Barbados. We have a national agenda. And that call center is not only for you to call and complain, do that please, but it's also as well a space for you to make recommendations, because we know that Barbadians have the answers. We understand as a government, and even as a public sector, that as we transform, we have to make sure that the voices of Barbadians are represented in finding the solutions, so that when you call that Citizen Services Contact Center, you can also call to make recommendations about the changes that you want to see, to put your solutions on the table. A government that is holding itself accountable. Holding itself accountable. But that notion of feeling, seeing, and hearing people is also carried through by what we are doing within culture as well, and how we are seeking to transform and to use culture as a way to ensure that Barbadians are imbued with a sense of national pride and a sense of identity. Because it is that national pride and that sense of identity, Barbadians, comrades, is what will make sure that when we go through those rough times, because when you know who you are at heart, when you know who the Bajan is and what you stand for, it is those values and those principles that will carry you through. It is for that reason that through the National Cultural Foundation, we have provided up to December 2023 over $1 million in duty-free concessions for artists, not big artists, only small people who want to participate in the creative industries can apply to the National Cultural Foundation and be able to make sure that you can bring in your goods duty-free, $1 million within that year, $300,000 in grants. You can again apply to the National Cultural Foundation. People, like people in St. Michael's South. I talking about the fella that out there that might be on the block. I talking about the little fella too that in his bedroom that quiet, but he know how to do a little thing on the computer and can make a little movie. I talking about the woman who could use she hands good and can make some soaps. All of you can apply to the National Cultural Foundation and become part of those persons that have already received, like I said, that $300,000 in grants to support their small creative industries and businesses, again, seeing and feeling people. And if that was part only what we did, but we're doing even more. We have gone into prison and we have started a 12-week program within the prisons to encourage creative writing amongst the prisoners. And we are collecting their stories and will put them into a book, people. The stories of people who have been incarcerated, because we understand that this Barbados It's for, yes, it's for all of us. And those that have been incarcerated deserve an opportunity and a chance as well. Deserve to be able, just like all of us who are on the outside, to have their voices heard. And we have invested in that program. And we will continue to invest in that program because the transformational ethos, I keep saying, is for all of us. The transformational work of this government is for all of us. It is part of the ethos of what we are doing in this season of emancipation. And you will hear more. One of the things that we will be doing is offering $30,000 again in grant money for communities and individuals who are developing innovative, creative ideas. And I challenged my staff. Last year we did it nationally. And I said to them, I don't want anything national now. We're going into communities. We're going to look for the people. We're going to search for them. We're going to find them where they are that have the little small ideas that wouldn't necessarily come out. And we will ensure that those are the people that we will bring along to be part of that $30,000 in prize money that we will give again to small business people, small entrepreneurs with creative ideas across this country, to make sure that people understand that the culture is about them and that they have value. Comrades, just Friday, I was speaking to some students at the St. Lawrence Primary School. Coincidentally, all of my family went to the St. Lawrence Primary School. I went to Christchurch Girls, all in the Christchurch family. And one of the things that I said to those students, and I said to them, I'm going to have an honest conversation with them, because these children of today are a little bit different. They understand things, the experiences and the things that they're going through. And I said to them that growing up poor, that growing up in families where parents sometimes can't provide all of the brand name things, and all of the things that society tells us sometimes that we need to have. And I told them sometimes the parents, as they transition to secondary school, might not be able to give them the lunch money that they want, and the shoes that they want, and the school bag that they want. But I said to them that it is important for them to understand that they have within them the ability to be able to overcome those circumstances, that they have within them, if they can gather their self-confidence, the ability as people of parents who are poor, of people who come from communities that are seen as downtrodden, that this government that I am a part of, that I am proud to be a part of, is making a pathway for them. And I told them that there are opportunities that they have to be able to grasp, that they have to be able to go out, even as young as they are, and to be able to make sure that they are aware of the opportunities. I told them they got the internet, they got Google, they got whatever it is that they use. And I say to you tonight, comrades, those of you who are here, those who are listening online, we all should be proud of this government. We all should be proud of this Barbados Labour Party. Because that ethos of seeing, feeling, and hearing people means that we are developing a cadre of policies, across all of the ministries that we serve that are not for the now. This is about Barbados to the future. That are for about building a Barbados 2035, 2050 and beyond. That we are building a Barbados. That those young people that I spoke to, your children and grandchildren, and my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, can not just survive, but that they will have an opportunity to thrive like never before. And I leave you with the message that I started with. Stay the course. Stay the course, comrades. Stay the course. I thank you.
I feel like we could do a little better than that for Chantal. Exactly. That's what it sounds like. And she ended on such a wonderful note, stay the course. Because this government is doing the work. It is doing the transformative work. It is doing the hard work. And it is doing what is required to take us into the future. And the next speaker, before I introduce him, I want to say that it is so important that when people show you who they are, that you believe them. When people demonstrate, when they say things, it is important not to have them repeat it twice. Believe who people show you that they are the first time. And so when I think about the next speaker that I am going to introduce and how he presented himself to me the first time, and I contrast that with what I have seen as representation on the other side, there is a stark difference. And there is a stark difference because representation is about service. It cannot be about self. Representation is not about how you feel on a morning or whether or not you think that right now you should show up. You're supposed to show up because you have been elected to show up. Representation requires that you show up on the hard days for your constituents. It requires that you walk the street. It requires that you knock on doors. It requires that you remember names. It requires that you call when people are sick. It is not an easy job. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not a fad. And it is not simply something that you do because you feel like you should just go wherever the wind blows. Representation and good representation requires that you stay steady in the storm. And so the next speaker said to me when he first met me that a tree without roots will fall. And he said it to me continuously every time he thinks that I have veered off course. He walks the constituency. I think that he spends more time in St. Michael South than I do as somebody who lives here. He shows up, he will call, he will check in. He is one of us. He continues to demonstrate not only what representation is as a member of parliament, but also as a minister, as he delivers on many of the things that Comrade Chantal Monroe Knight spoke to. The child protection legislation, ensuring that child care board is transformed, ensuring that we protect the most vulnerable, our elderly, ensuring that when persons show up to welfare that they are dignified because there is dignity, ensuring that we eradicate or we get rid of certain things that may challenge or contribute to persons not having the best quality of life in Barbados. And so I stand here and I say to you, as I introduce none other than a member of parliament for St. Michael South, that when people show you who they are, believe them. And he has shown us who he is from 2017 when he was nominated. He has shown us who he is in 2018, and he continues up to this day. And so I want to invite the representative of St. Michael South, none other than the Honorable Kurt Humphrey. Comrade Kurt Humphrey, I'm asking you to put your hands together and welcome him as he comes to address us.
Humphrey is the man. Better my patrol. Who we say, who help me fix up Humphrey. In the BLP, Britain held out and two. Who help me clean up Humphrey.
So we want you to vote, vote. Put down your heads and vote, vote. Kirk is the man, so vote, vote. Vote BLP. Don't be no fool, vote for Humphrey.
Humphrey is a community man. People over politics, that is the plan.
You know that. Okay, now, y'all can hear me now? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. First of all, please give these amazing speakers a round of applause. You know, when I was conceptualizing with the branch this meeting, and I thought to myself, what is it that the people of this country need to hear from us now? It was that given the changes that are occurring in the world, and the changes that are occurring even in Barbados, that we needed to give people the assurance that this country was in good hands. And tonight you can see that this country is in great hands. And you know, I could easily have picked a completely different 4 or 5 people to stand here with me. I could have asked Marsha Cattle to stand here and deliver, equally or more powerfully than most of us. I could have asked the same thing of Santia. I could have gone around the corner, asked Chris. This Labour Party has a number of excellent young people who are coming up. I could have asked Lisa Cummins, who spoke on my branch meeting, who spoke at one of my earlier meetings when I was running for office, and you've heard her before. I could ask Andwele, young Senator Andwele, who's here. There is enough firepower in this Labour Party, I'm telling you, to blast our way into the future. But as I listen tonight, first of all, this is supposed to be a branch meeting, but I see that this is now a political meeting. And I haven't heard that song in a few years, but I like it. But as I was reflecting, as I was listening to the speakers before me, and the excellent 2 young MCs that I have in Roshana and in Khalil. And of course, I asked Wilfred to go last because Wilfred is now a veteran. Wilfred Abrams now is a veteran, not in his age, but in the fact that he's contributed now to about 2013, he's been in Parliament. So he's now a seasoned campaigner. I allowed myself to go just before Wilfred, recognizing he is my senior, you see. But I was thinking when I was listening to the speakers here, and Marsha, you might understand because I know you might feel exactly the same. When we are elected to office, it is indeed a privilege that the people bestow upon us, and we have to return that favor to the people. Not in treachery and not in deceit. When the people take you to office, you have to return that good love back to the people. And anything less than that is treachery. But I reflected on this during the course of this conversation because I was looking at the people who brought me here, those who sit on my branch. And I want to begin again by thanking my branch. I believe the St. Michael South branch of the Barbados Labour Party, and the people who associate themselves with me and me with them are the best people in the Labour Party, and I say so without fear or contradiction. And they don't have to wonder how I feel about them. And I don't have to wonder how they feel about me. But I came tonight to deliver a message. I really wanted you all to see what the future of not only the Barbados Labour Party looked like, but what the future of Barbados looked like. And somebody asked me while I was at cricket the other day, you know, if something happened and the Prime Minister doesn't decide to stay, or if the Prime Minister stays, are you with the Prime Minister? Let me say this straight. If Mia Mortley decides to stay for 1,000 years, Kurt Humphrey with her for 1,000 years. Because I love Owen Arthur, don't get me wrong. I'm an Owen Arthur man. But I have never seen leadership like this in all of my years. And I am so honored to live in the same time as Mia Mortley and to have the opportunity to serve in a cabinet that Mia Mortley leads. And so when we start comparing those who lead us and the many who attempt to lead them, it is chalk and many cheeses. Because you cannot compare what we offer to what is on offer on the other side. And I feel that there has to be a seriousness that is brought to this political conversation. You know, when I joined the Barbados Labour Party, I was a very young person. I joined the Labour Party in 1996. I was a very young person, and I was inspired then by Owen Arthur and the things he said and the transformation he brought and the vision he brought. And I said to myself, I think I want to go and associate myself with that kind of revolutionary thinking. And I would say to the young people now, as I was young then, that in Mia Motley you have the same exact qualities and that they should associate themselves with this Labour Party now. And you've heard it. I don't have to go through everything. You've heard it. From the time they introduced themselves, the two MCs, you heard it from Chad, Gregory, you've heard it from Chantal, you will hear it from Wilfred. You've heard it time and time again, the things that we are doing. But you know, I think it is so important. This is not a time for jokes. And I feel that we have to restore a seriousness to Barbadian political life. And that which is now on offer on the other side offers himself as a joke. As a joke. And I say so with due respect to those who are joking on the other side. But this is a serious thing. And that when I think about it, I was watching the news last night. I saw war in Ukraine with Russia. We see war in the Congo, kind of a civil war. All kind of unrest in Haiti. Same thing in Palestine. All kind of tempers flaring all across the world. This little country, Barbados, 166 square miles. In 2018, when we came to office, nobody wanted to hear from us. But now we have a leader that can speak to the world at a time when the world needs some kind of someone to speak to the world and to bring the world back into some kind of sense. And to be heard when you do it. And people ask, I saw once Minister Simmons spoke and he said these wars will affect prices, and people said that's a joke and they couldn't understand it. These things affect prices. Whether you can eat or not eat, or afford to eat or not eat, a lot of that depends on what is happening in the rest of the world. We know that when the big countries sneeze, that they say Barbados will catch a cold. And we know this. And therefore, it is important that we understand these things. And then when you move out to the international space and you come into the regional space, you ask yourself what is happening across the Caribbean. You know, we have very similar issues. But you would listen to the opposition and you would think that that which is happening in Barbados is only happening in Barbados. They would tell you all of a sudden that the conversation we are having about NIS is a BLP conversation. It is a conversation across the region. Because everybody had, Peter Phillips, my good friend, sitting down there, give Peter a round of applause, acting all quiet. One of my favorite people in the world. But you would think that this is somehow now a Barbadian conversation alone. Or you would hear about high debt and you would think that this is a Barbadian conversation or small, tiny population or the Asian population. These things happening all over the Caribbean. And these are conversations that this country will need to have in a manner that is mature. Because whether the BLP lead this country or somebody else lead this country, this conversation must be had. And this conversation is being now had all over the Caribbean. But when I say to you that the way Barbados has framed it and the things Barbados has put in place to deal with these things, no other country is doing the way Barbados is doing. That is a fact. It is a fact. And in the Barbados Labour Party Constitution, you know, we speak about regional integration. In fact, we're the only political party in Barbados to have it in our constitution. Because we understand that you have to have a whole to be able to deal with these things, even in part. That is why it is going to be important. But I've noticed, And I want you all to understand what is going on in this country. It won't be long. And I want to speak to some things about my constituency as I close, so it won't be long. But understand what is happening in this country. There is now a conversation about the economic situation in Barbados. That somehow Barbados is now worse off than Barbados has ever been. I heard somebody suggest that Barbados is performing worse than any other Caribbean country. I reminded somebody that when this party came into office, was Barbados not the third most indebted country in the world? Behind it was Japan and Greece. Behind Japan and Greece, or Greece and Japan in the proper order. And they have forgotten. So that now Barbados is no longer in that conversation. They're trying to change the conversation. And that we are meant to believe the lies that they are giving us now as truth. That somehow all of a sudden Barbados is worse off than Barbados has ever been. I listened to the opposition leader in Parliament the other day when we were presenting, I think the Prime Minister was presenting her last part of her presentation. And the suggestion was made when we were discussing GDP, because I know that these topics, the Democratic Labour Party don't like these topics, and they want to run a country. But the question was raised about whether the figures for GDP growth was real or not real. It can't be real, got to be inflation. When we were looking at the central bank's most recent report. So I went to the report. I pulled it up as he was speaking. I didn't want to embarrass the fella Kadir. But it said very clearly, real GDP. It said real. He's suggesting that it's nominal, which means that inflation, things cost more money, so people ain't really got nothing, but it's that. And that happened for 12 consecutive periods. So all of a sudden now the growth is not real growth. When we know for a fact that this economy is doing a hell of a lot better than it was doing when the Democratic Labour Party had a responsibility for it. But then I listened a little bit more, and then they moved off the economic, you see, because it's not their strong point. And then they went to the social. And I heard the president of the Democratic Labour Party tell us about the... Well, I don't even know now. But I listened. I took some notes because I don't want to mislead, you see. But I listened to the former president of the Democratic Labour Party tell us that he looked at the Human Development Index and that Barbados has fallen. Last year, Barbados was 62, the last Human Development Index report, right? Barbados is 62. Barbados got the most problems in the world. This country is falling apart. No problem. So I said, anybody could pick up the Human Development reports or go online and Google these things. The thing is that I feel the Democratic Labour Party feel Barbadians foolish, and that nobody is not going to go and read or check these things for themselves. So check this. Barbados is the worst off in the world. So last year, Barbados fell from 60 to 62. We fell 2 points in the Human Development Index. Fair enough. Not that I tell myself the Human Development Index is the be-all, end-all of anybody's development measure, but this is what he chose to use. But in 2019, when we came into office, because we got measured the year after, we were 72. When he said that we are the worst off, we are now 62. When we came into office and we measured in 2019, they were at 72. So we've already improved 10. Fair enough. When they took over office in 2008, so let's say 2009, Barbados was 53. 53. So if you want to tell me, as your measurement, that the Human Development Index is the thing that you will use, it's not the thing I will use, but it's the thing that they used. If that is your barometer, your measuring stick, you can't tell me Barbados is so badly off for going 2 places down from last year when we are 10 places up from where we found you. And then you took this country 20 places down. Well, let us get real. So you cannot use that as a tool to gauge the Labour Party because you cannot win that argument. And then I listened again because there's not everything, and every time somebody's saying you gotta respond. But I want the Barbados Labour Party family to be informed and to be proud of their party. And I'm not saying to become arrogant, but you have to be adamant. Do not become complacent, but you have to be vigilant. And to recognize that that which is being said is being done so to tear down not only the Barbados Labour Party, but to tear down Barbados. In the hope that somebody will say, well, let me give them a chance. But I began this little conversation of mine by telling you that this is too serious a time for this kind of mockery. So I heard then, oh, you must have heard it, you all need to spend more money on the social sector. The social sector is not getting enough funds, you're not getting enough support. Well, I'm a researcher by nature like Marsha. So then I said, let me go and check these numbers. So in 2019 to 2020, we did 71 million. Is our actual spend in social, my ministry, former social care. At their highest, they did 69 million. In 2020, 2021, we did by then, now we are at 96 million. Last year, the end of last year, we did $120 million in spend in the social services sector compared to their $69 million in spending, but yet he's telling us that we have to spend more when we're spending almost twice as much as the Democratic Labour Party to protect poor people in this country. So they know that they cannot win the social argument too. So they've gone off the economic and they're veering off the social, and now they're wallowing in lies and conjecture. And that the child protection bill now is a bill to convert boys to girls and girls to boys, when none of that is in the bill. Or that the cybercrime bill that Marsha is pushing is a bill that is suddenly going to make sure you can't say nothing about politicians and to protect politicians, but ain't to protect young girls when people post their nude pictures and so on. It's not protect families in this country. Because the realness of what we are doing, the truth that we are bringing, the reality is that these are different times, and that you cannot do now that which you did 20, 30, 40 years ago. So that when you look at the entire governance structure, and I could go through every single ministry. Wilfred on his child justice bill. Wilfred on all the reforms that will come to the criminal justice system very shortly. I'm sure he'll speak on that in his own time. The work that I want to thank my colleagues, I really do, for the support that they have given me in trying to transform what has been a situation that is 120 years old. And I could call on Wilfred almost any time of day, and not almost, I could call Wilfred any time of day, any time of night, and get an answer, get a response, and get a support. I thank you, my brother. So all of that to say that at the end of the day, and I'm only giving you a few examples, but at the end of the day, you are comparing that which is necessary, the work that we are doing, and the level of consultation to do it, with the promise of all kind of things leading up to the big announcement this weekend that the Dems say they're now ready for an election. Yeah, that's all this was about, My mother used to tell me as a boy, be careful what you wish for, my man. Be careful what you wish for. But I think we have a lot of work to do, important conversations to be had in this country, and we are doing the work. You go through any of the ministries. A government that is focused on delivering for the people. In my ministry alone, and I'll wrap up, I see them looking at me, though I in my own house. But you see, the other thing is that this Labour Party subjects itself to discipline. And you cannot run a country if you can't discipline your own self in a political party. But at the end of the day, all over the social sector with the amalgamation. Chantal spoke to some of them, bringing together these agencies to deliver for you on one family, to deliver for you. We just created this new unit called the Resilience Unit, where if you have a fire, and people who've had fire so far, you saw what happened in Wellington Street with Corey. Well, that's Corey all over the paper, the Ministry of People Empowerment, because this new unit that we created was there the night 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30. Looking after the interests of people. Kerry just had a fire, same thing. Indar had a fire, same thing. I haven't had one yet, praise the Lord. But you know, I shouldn't say. But I'm just saying a new unit to deliver for the people. And I feel that in St. Michael South, I have tried my best to be the best representative that I can be. I turned up with Victor at Gail's house one Sunday after Victor dragged me, because I didn't come to politics begging nobody to run me, you know. Victor Ames dragged me down the road. And I said to them, if I get the chance, Victor and Gail, that I will give my best to this constituency, and I believe that I have lived by my word. And it doesn't mean we will get all the things we want. I know that I have every Wednesday when I meet with my constituents. I know we meet with yours, but on Wednesdays too, people are asking for things. Now we've heard the conversations in St. Michael South and South Central. Speaking for Marsha, because Marsha invited you to my branch meeting in July. Warm up yourself. We are asking for roads. The people ask for roads all the time. And you've already seen the government has started to roll out a major roadworks program all over Barbados. The roads are being fixed in this country. I mean, of course, I would like some roads, more roads in St. Michael South. I'm sure you want some in South Central. People are asking about housing. But Dwight is working very, very hard to deliver on the promise of housing. And we've seen, as we saw with Elsa, because I want you all to understand these things sometimes are not as easy as they appear. When we made the commitment to fix the houses immediately after Elsa, the houses got blown down and the government went about fixing a number of houses. There's still some houses that are still unfixed, but a lot of those houses have challenges. People do not own the land, or people thought they would get permission from the landlord, and the landlord, when they realized they started rebuilding, said no. Then there were a number of family issues that emerged. So a lot of the houses you see unfinished from Elsa are unfinished because of issues to deal with the same land or the house and the ownership of the house and so on. But we are working to fix that. And I know people have asked me for jobs, but as the economy expands, we anticipate people are going to get more jobs. But what I love about the people of St. Michael South is that when I go to them and I explain the reality and I tell them my truth, they still support me. And I go and I tell them this is the truth of it. This is the truth of it. When I went to Roshana, and I went to Roshana more than once, and I said, Roshana, you have a future in Barbados, in Barbadian politics, in the Barbados Labour Party, and that I was trying my best to mentor you as much as I was mentored. I meant it, and here it's still Roshana. Or when Victor and Gail would remember in 2018, I'm coming home now, in 2018, when we started our election campaign, I said I want more local speakers and I want brand name speakers, and I threw on Omega Lawrence, and Omega done the place. I meant it, because we have to be able to offer opportunity to the people who want to serve in this country. It doesn't mean everybody want to wear a shirt and a tie. Some people want to serve as they are, and we have to create spaces for people to serve as they are. So I want to close, I think, as Khalil began, I think, that the contrast between this Barbados Labour Party and the many versions that now exist of the other side, the contrast is so stark. The difference and the distance between the two parties is so massive. You cannot compare the two. But I want to remind you, this is not a time to be arrogant. It is not a time to toot your own horn. In fact, if ever that ever crept into the cabinet, I think you'll be a former minister. Because I have never seen a prime minister as accomplished as the prime minister is and as focused on delivering for the people as Mia Motley is. So I ask the people as they close to St. Michael South, first of all, this is not a time for elections, but you will see me in Riesland this week because the Minister of Housing and the Minister of Transport have promised to go there with me. We're taking the minister then, after that meeting, back to the grotto. He went already to look at the issues that currently exist in the grotto. The minister responsible for community development, we are going back into Jessamine because the Building Blocks Project, Mark, is about to start. And I love my campaign manager, Mr. Boxell. He's one of the best in Barbados. And then we're going over to Charleston, where I promised the young men a light to play tennis, and finally we're getting that light once the residents agree to the conditions. So this is not just talk. But ladies and gentlemen, I ask you now to gird your loins. Because what you have seen from the other side is only the beginning of the depth to which they have intended to crawl. And that they will dig as deep as they can to throw as much mud on this Labour Party and on this country because they believe it's the only way to win. They cannot win, as I've explained to you, on the economics of it. They cannot win on the social of it. They cannot win on how we treat the people and the consultation. So they've decided that slander is the way of the future. But I have decided, like the Prime Minister has decided, that we have a different future. And that what you see here represents the future of this country, this Barbados Labour Party, and the future of the country and the party is in great hands. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Comrades, I know that you, like me, I don't know why he stopped when he did, because I know that you, like me, wanted another hour of that. If you cut Kirk Humphrey, you will see people over politics. The Democratic Labour Party offers you division. The Barbados Labour Party offers you vision. And that is fundamentally what public service and what this politics has to be about. It has to be a recognition that when you leave, you had to have left the place better than you found it. You know how the Democratic Labour Party found Barbados in 2008, and you know how the destructive Labour Party left Barbados in 2018. But this government has determined that, and it is Comrade Blackman who spoke to this, the Prime Minister's infinite capacity to see a problem and to see a solution and to remain on the people, to be a hard taskmaster, as Gregory referred to get that thing that has been identified resolved. So that in education, there's been a lot of talk tonight about the colonial child protection system. We have an education system that is rooted in a colonial era, and this Barbados Labour Party government has committed itself that it will not leave the problem as it has found it, but it will create an education system that will ensure that every single child in Barbados has an opportunity in the new and uncertain world that we now face. And the Democratic Labour Party, or one part of it, perhaps two parts of it, I don't know. There's so many now, but a fraction of the Democratic Labour Party, let's call it that, would like to convince you that, you know, this education transformation thing is something to be afraid of. And yeah, change is always frightening. In my personal life, I don't like a lot of change. If I sit in one spot every day, that's good for me. But the reality is, change is, as you said, Saitomia, a factor in every single thing. And that if the mark of a true visionary is the ability to see the need for change and to respond to it, the hallmark of people that will keep you shackled to the past are people who are so blinkered by fear that they cannot see the need for change and they want to encourage you to stay where you are. But if all of us every morning stood part where we were, you wouldn't be able to make any progress in life. And so that is what is fundamentally the difference between the Democratic Labour Party and the Barbados Labour Party. Fear on the one hand, or courage to take the tough choices, because when you go to sleep at night, in this representative democracy, you have to know that your affairs are being handled well. This next speaker is an invaluable and indispensable member of the parliamentary team and of the cabinet. He has been referred to by Minister Humphrey as a veteran, having first contested in 2013 and gained success in 2018. And he has some of his constituents with him here today who I know will tell you that his stewardship of the constituency of Christchurch East has been second to none during his tenure. At the height of COVID, as Minister of Home Affairs, he had to deal with the very complex challenge of the spread of COVID at the prison. And when Barbadians went to the polls in 2018, we didn't know anything about COVID would happen. But when you have to make that important choice, you have to know that the people that you elect are capable of handling any problem at all. And that is what you have. That is what you have in this next speaker, the Minister of Home Affairs and Information, the Member of Parliament for Christchurch East, our comrade, the Honourable Wilfred Abrams.
Thank you, Khalil. This man can introduce me anytime, anywhere. Good night, St. Michael South. So, I got my conscience clear. When I go home and I sleep real easy. It upsets my wife. She's take a little bit of time to get asleep. I put my head down and it's gone. Nothing bothers me. I have only 2 dreams I can play in my mind, 2 nightmares. Only 2 things upset my sleep. When I came in here was 1. I have this enduring dream that I wake up late for exam. I done all my exams 25, 30 years ago. I walk in here, see all y'all sitting on a desk. And I had a flashback, oh my God, I late for the exam. That's 1. The next thing that's wake me up or disturb my sleep is the thought that the Democratic Labour Party could ever get back in government again. Worse yet, that Ralph Torn could lead it to victory. So, I'm glad I recognize them as things in my subconscious that are unlikely to happen, and I will proceed on that basis. Now, Kurt, enough respect. We've worked together more closely than we ever have before, because our paths keep crossing in terms of a symbiotic type relationship. We did the child justice and child protection legislation together on a parallel. And I thought I used to work hard, my mom, but I realized that working hard is perspective, right? And I realized what hard work was when I actually started to work with you. So big up for that. The other thing is, as we're working on these vulnerable lists for the purpose of the hurricane season, and we're going all out, I realize our paths keep crossing. Our paths keep crossing, and that's a good thing, because I think we work well together. Somebody, though, actually recently, they keep confusing me and you. I don't know. I keep saying, no, Kurt is the younger, good-looking one. But Kurt, so I take the compliment. You, my man, should be worried. It might be time for you to get back in the gym. But let me start serious. Let me talk serious. Wait, you all laughing at your MP? So, I don't know what Ralph Torn is actually doing. I don't know what he's doing. They got a thing that young people say, I hate foolishness. Y'all ever heard that? I hate foolishness. I do not understand what the man is doing. Let me tell you why. His most recent rant has been in connection with the government spending over the World Cup and the government spending at Oistins. Let me deal with the World Cup first. How many of y'all went to cricket? How Kensington look to you? Kensington looks amazing. The stands upgraded, new stands built, training rooms built, ice bath built, media accommodation built, hospitality center built, drop-in pitches on the way. I mean, Kensington was looking pop down. Let me be honest, Kensington was looking pop down. No, the only thing, if you really want to pick an issue with Kensington, the only thing that you could pick an issue with is that on top the Greenwich and Haynes stand, the third solar panel down cracked because somebody hit a 6 and broke the panel. But as if you really wanted to pick an issue with it. I just gave you the quarrel about now. I heard the leader of the Democratic Labour Party, I heard him say that nothing ain't happened at Kensington. They dust off a few chairs. I'm paraphrasing. They dust off a few chairs and did a few things, and that any pictures you saw looking spectacular was artificial intelligence. Pictures generated by artificial intelligence. The man kept talking about artificial intelligence. Now I have to ask myself, did he actually pick himself up and go and look? Because it is apparent, if he thinks that those pictures were generated by artificial intelligence, he didn't see the real thing in person. Now, what I also don't understand is you asking exactly what the money was spent on. That the lights cost $7 million, but you don't know if it was included in the $50 million, and you want to know exactly what it was spent on. You want to know the person, the chair, the Public Accounts Committee, and you're going to get to the bottom of this, and you're going to investigate this, and you're going to get to the bottom of it. You want to know, you want to know, you want to know. The people of Barbados must ask questions. The Prime Minister did the boldest and fairest thing. She said, you know what? Barbados, let me not guess. Ain't all the one that can get a chance to come to the matches. You might not be interested in coming, but you want to know how we spend your money. So come down. We will throw it open. We will throw it open that you could tour it. We will throw it open you could turn on your taps. We throw it open that you could see the ice baths. We throw it open that you could see every single room and improvement at Kensington. And then, when we're done, we have a town hall where you can come and ask anything that you want to ask about Kensington. Anything at all. Now, I don't know if y'all actually watched the town hall or you were there, but you realize that everybody concerned with Kensington was there. The engineer was there. The project manager was there. The people who put out the lights were somewhere there. The grounds people were there. The CEO of Comey was there. Everybody that could answer a question, any question that you pitch up, was there and present to answer any questions. Now, I would have felt that if your concern and your queries were indeed genuine, that you would have been visitor and guest number one. Well, I made a point of looking. I ain't see him there. Now, I could have missed him. Did any of you see him? So, I will hazard a guess that to the best, I'm speaking real carefully because he's a lawyer. And I don't want nobody to sue me. To the best of my knowledge, he was not there. Now, as far as I am concerned, you know what? You might not have the intestinal fortitude to come there yourself and ask the question because you don't want anybody to laugh at you. But you got people to do that for you. Right? If you're the leader of a whole party, you have your foot soldiers, we have ours. If you are a leader of a whole party and you did not want to come in person yourself, then pick a boy, pick a body, and send the body to ask the questions that you want to ask. You want to ask exactly how much your lights cost, and how much dollars it was per bulb, and how much luxes or lumens in each bulb. Send somebody to ask that. You want to know how much the solar panels cost? Send somebody to ask that. You want to know who the contractor is? Send somebody to ask that. Not a question, not a body, not a body. Well, as far as I am concerned, me and Motley ain't gonna answer nothing to no Ralph Thorne about nothing concerning Kensington. If it was so big an issue that you were preaching that the whole time, that was your linchpin, that was what you going on about all the time. You mean you ain't pick yourself up and at least go and eavesdrop, hide out in one of the newly refurbished bathrooms and put a cup to the door and listen? You have lost all credibility where that is concerned. You have lost all rights to ask questions about that. The government gave you the perfect forum to do it, and you could not bestir or bother yourself from whatever it was that you were doing that evening to go down to Kensington and actually confront me. You are her opposite. You are on the other side. You are the person more entitled than me by being the leader of the opposition to ask the Prime Minister a question, unless you don't think you are man enough. Unless you're frightened, or unless you know in your heart of hearts that you're asking foolishness. As I said, I don't like foolishness. Now, the other thing now, he relays, because all of us saw the videos, right? People were interviewed at Kensington. I'm being real honest here. People were interviewed at Kensington. I am one of the people, I'm the Minister of Information. I had somebody actually asking people at random. I think we asked about 220-something people how they felt about it. I can show one of the videos how they felt about it. Everybody, with the exception of one person, everybody said it was great. Everybody. I assume there has some D's in there. And I assume that if I call in people at random, out of 200 people, not me, who was doing it, but out of 200 people, at least some of them had to be thems. Nobody had anything to say except one man who said he didn't want his face on camera. I think he was there with somebody, he wasn't supposed to be there with. But he didn't want his face on camera. So the one man that spoiled the perfect record didn't decry it. He just said he ain't had nothing to ask. So after that, I would call that an overwhelming response positively. With respect, a vote of confidence. Thank you, Kurt. A vote, always thinking about the vote, a vote of confidence. After that vote of confidence, he paused for a little bit and then re-emerged in a press conference. He re-emerged in a press conference. You see, my brain is thinking, I'd be talking, but my brain doing like about 5 or 6 things. So I know what I was going to say next. He emerged for a press conference late last week, where he started to talk about the fact that nobody ain't going to cricket. If you look at the comments under that press conference, it was like, did they know they were coming to a press conference? Was somebody wearing, he crawled up from the Treasury building. I mean, the people tore him apart. They tore him to pieces. We all know, anybody who's ever watched the Cricket World Cup, Nobody don't go to the early matches. People don't go. If you are leaving, if you're an English person coming to the West Indies, right? You booking aiming for Super 8s or semi-finals and finals. That's the package you booking for. Even in World Cup football, you could easily, even late in the day, get a ticket to one of the preliminary matches for World Cup football. You can't get none for the semi-finals and finals. But for all the early matches, there's always availability. But I realized that he timed it well. He timed it so it went into the press the day before the English match. Now, I know who went to the English match. Who went to the England-Australia match? Kensington was burst. Kensington was burst. We know it can be burst for the finals because you can't get a ticket. I try and get one for my father. You can't get a ticket. Depending on who matches up against who in the Super 8s, it can be burst again. But I wonder if Ralph, having given vent to his mouth, bothered to attend the England match. Kurt, remind me, I think I may have 1 or 2 tickets left over for the Super 8s. Remind me to send one to him. I don't know. I can just send one. Or we can work it out. I can make sure Wilfred Abrams give him a chance to go. Because I think it's necessary for him to actually get on the ground, feel the people, read the room, see what's going on, and then speak from a position of information. The man talking about artificial intelligence, but displaying real ignorance. Profound stupidity. I don't like to attack people personally, and I'm not attacking him, because I know he's better than that. I know his qualities as a lawyer. Ralph Thorne is an excellent lawyer. He researches his cases and presents them well. He's a senior counsel, King's counsel. He hold on to that one. He's a King's counsel. He is a bright, bright man. Ralph, you now got 2 jobs. You're a lawyer on the one hand, and you're a politician and the leader of a party on the other hand. Please try to apply yourself with the same diligence to both your jobs so you stop embarrassing yourself by making these ridiculous statements about the government. You know, they got some people, you ever had a friend or one of the negative people in your life who there ain't nothing you could do that good for them? Nothing. If you discover the cure for cancer, they can abuse you because you just find it before. He's like one of those people. His whole reason for existing now is to criticize every single thing that the government does. When Kurt dropped the child protection legislation, and it was deliberate, our child justice legislation was finished some time ago. We kept tweaking it because we were allowing the child protection legislation to be done. Because it was important that we don't just show the legislative enforcement part of the government, but we also show the protective part. From the time we laid those, when Kurt gave his first address, he said this is going to go to select committee. From the first time he spoke, when I spoke about mine, I said this will go to select committee because we knew we are changing 100 years of doing something a certain way. We knew it's going to have implications. We knew people or interest groups might want to feedback. We said it up front. We consulted and we did the best possible drafts to make it as ready as we could, and then we laid it in Parliament. What? All right, so let me skip through. Anyway, my point simply is this. For him to come afterwards and then commend Kurt's legislation and say that it benefited from the input of the DLP making 3 or 4 points in it, and it is now a much better piece of legislation. Give me a break, man. Come on. All right, so look, let me just say this. Back to Kensington. It don't make any sense. This time I have 2 minutes. I thought I had unlimited time being the last person, but anyway. So I will just say this. Let me just finish on Kensington because I started on there. We have a fit-for-purpose stadium, not just a cricket stadium, we have a stadium that can host anything. When we spent that money, it was not just simply about preparing a stadium for cricket. When we spent that money, it was about showing the world that Barbados is back. We must be the smallest country to host 3 global finals. The smallest one. It said we are open for business. It said let us give our vendors a chance. It said let us display our talent to the world. There are lots of spin-off activities. Who was on Rihanna Drive yesterday? When I saw the videos, we left Kensington and went to Rihanna Drive. The road was blocked off. All the people down there making a dollar. It was bashment down there. It was burst. That's my new word now. It was burst. I saw one of them down there, but I didn't see the head of them. But my point simply is this. I can stand in here comfortable and tell you and all of you that I am comfortable that our government is being responsible in its expenditure. We are being responsible in our custody of the public purse, and any expenditure we make is being done to benefit Barbados and Barbadians. My conscience is clear. I hate foolishness. So allow me to just wrap up by saying this. I blame us. I want to put some blame on one. All of you who looking at me, all of you who online that wear shirts like this, I blame y'all. We made the whole thing look too easy. We came in and found the country in the worst positions to ever be in, but we ain't complain. We knew what we were going to find. It was worse than what we thought, but we ain't complain. We rolled up our sleeves and got down to fixing the problems of Barbados. There is so much that we have done. There is so much we did in a short space of time. It has only been 6 years. Most of the problems that we knew that existed that were plaguing Bajans in 2018 have gone. They've gone. We did it so easily that people forgot it was done. They forgot how bad it was. It is our time now to remind them. It is our time to point out to people. I ain't saying claim victories for things they didn't do like the rest are fond of doing. I ain't saying we don't need to make up things. There is so much that we can put. Look, I want to prove a point. I can just pick people at random, just 5 people at random. Think here now of something that get changed between 2018 and now. Something we did that was big between 2018 and now. Wait, hold on. Excuse me, microphone. Asking questions, answering questions. Yes, Corrine, one thing. So, of course, Sandy, Rose in St. Peter, free education university, garbage trucks, buses. I see you out there, your hand up out there. No down, actually, not just no downgrades, upgrades. I could do this and I'm sure each one of you could give me multiple answers, but we are not telling the story. It is our story to tell. Let us stop letting mad people dictate the narrative for this country. Let us now write our own story and dictate our own narrative. Let's make a deal to start doing that from today. And perhaps then, we will stun him into some degree of silence or make him start to think about what he says, because I hate foolishness. Thank you.
I love chairing meetings, but I don't like when I have to share that minister's got 2 minutes left. And they don't even spare me calling me out. And I know everybody, we could have listened to that for quite some time more because there was so much in there. But we've had a long afternoon and so much has been said. And I believe that it is important for us to not only go home and think about it, but also to share it with those who are not here, share it with those who do not know, who are not listening. But this evening, as I wrap up, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank comrades Gregory Nichols, Chantal Monroe-Knight, Chad Blackman, Wilfred Abrams, as well as Khalil for joining us in St. Michael South. I want to thank Member of Parliament for St. Michael South, Kirk Humphrey, for inviting us to be able to present this afternoon and to showcase what we have to offer, not only now, but in the future. I want to thank the St. Michael team at the back, DJ Beige, Team BLP at the back with the cameras for the support that you have given so that persons who are not here can tune in, but also so that those of you who are here can get some refreshments, and we love refreshments. And I want to say, and once again, I thank you for being such a great family. The one thing I love about this party that I have felt in my soul since I joined in 2017 is the love and support that comes no matter who you are or where you come from. And that is something that I cannot share how much it means, particularly coming from my first memory of politics is time for change, or time for change is now. And for those of you who do not know, I was born in Guyana, but I've lived here all my life, and Barbados is my home. And so to come to the Team BLP and to be mentored, to be included without question, without hesitation, for me and for so many others, that means so much. And so this afternoon, we have introduced you to our batting, and this is only some of it. This is the lineup. This is the team, not only now, and some of the team, not only now, but in the future. And I want to say before we go and before I say goodbye and thank you so much once again, is that we do not have the privilege of losing focus or becoming complacent. We do not have the luxury of giggling at the things happening in George Street and getting distracted by white noise, because that is what it is. As a political party, as we build the best life for our people, we cannot afford to let lies and conspiracy take root, and they seem to be trying to do their best. It is important that whether it is in the village where you live or in your community, whether it is in the shop, whether it is at your workplace, whether you are on radio, that you share the work that is being done, because we are doing the work. And the greatest lie that we tell ourselves is that the work speaks for itself. The work of the BLP will not speak loud enough, and so we need you to speak louder. There is a lot of noise, so we need your voices. A team could bat as good as it like, but something about fans in the stand, the audience, those who come to assist, those who cheer on, those who sell the food outside, those who sell the t-shirts, those who support without reservation because they know what we are capable of. We cannot say how much and how important it is for you to continue to support and uplift our members of parliament, our senators, and for us to continue to uplift each other. A house divided will fall. This is not a house divided. We continue to be a strong house. We continue to be a house that knows exactly where we call home and where we plan to go. And so this afternoon, I want to thank you, BLP family, for once again supporting and encouraging and uplifting. And I look forward to seeing you not only once again in July for our meeting, but also at all the other things that we have going on, because we can't do this without you. And so continue to stay on board and continue to be red and ready. Thank you so much. God bless, and get home safely. Don't forget the refreshments.
Humphrey is the man. Let Irma pass through. Who we say, who help me fix up Humphrey? In the BLM, Britain held out and two. Who help me clean up Humphrey?
So we want you to vote, vote. Put down your heads and vote, vote. Kirk is the man, so vote, vote. All BLP. Don't be no fool.
I'm free as a community man. People over politics, that is the plan. When you see the white pilot fan, I'm free to stop talk when you shake your hand.
Vote, vote, put down your heads and vote, vote. Kirk is the master, vote, vote, vote BLP. Don't be no fool, vote for
We
Humphrey.
start programs are meant to the youth. Tennis and football, he sponsor the group. All when the boy get shoot, we a march with the few. Yo, I'm free, big here salute.
So we want you to vote, vote, put down your heads and vote, vote. Kirk is the master, vote, vote, vote BLP. Don't be no fool, vote for
I'm
Humphrey.
free is the
Put down
man.
your heads, put down your heads, put down
I'm
your
free
heads.
is the
Put
man.
down your heads, put down
I'm
your
free
heads.
is the
Put down
man.
your heads, put down your heads, put down
I'm
your
free
heads.
is the man.
Put down your heads, put down
Let
your heads.
Irma pass through. Who we say? Who help me fix up? I'm free. In the BLM, Britain held dirt and two. Who help me clean up? I'm free.
So we want you to vote, vote, put down your heads and vote, vote. Kirk is the master, vote, vote, vote BLP. Don't be no fool.
All aboard? Yeah. You ready to roll? Yeah. Can I talk just a little bit? Can I really talk just a little bit? Can I really talk just a little bit? Hold on. Now is the time.
Now is the time.
Everybody ready?
Everybody ready?
Go tell your friends.
Go tell your friends.
Tell your whole family.
Your whole
Tell
family.
the stranger upon the left.
On the left.
Tell the stranger upon the right.
On the right.
We rolling with BLP. It's one chance to make this right.